My article is about the effects of acid rain and ozone on plant chemistry. Exhaust from motor vehicles and industrial emissions are just a couple of the major factors that have been negatively impacting the environment, raising the ozone levels to dangerous concentrations. Acid rain, which is also harmful for the environment, is caused mainly by the burning of fossil fuels by coal-burning power plants, factories, and cars. In this study done by researchers Mohman and Helms, the effects of acid rain and ozone on plant chemistry was explored. They focused on Pinus ponderosa trees, which are the most dominant pine trees in the western United States. Their main question was, what are the effects of air pollutants on forest trees? They predicted that the combination of acid rain and different ozone levels alter the chemical makeup, specifically carbon and nitrogen ratios, as well as carbon and nitrogen concentrations, in Pinus ponderosa trees. The researchers conducted an experiment consisting of 4 main treatment groups. Each group had a different combination of acid rain pH levels and ozone levels. All 4 of the experimental groups consisted of one pine tree, which was then treated with acid rain with a pH of either 3.0 or 5.1, and either an ambient ozone or twice ambient ozone level. Twice ambient simply meant that the ozone level was more concentrated or elevated. So there were basically 4 different combinations of acid rain and ozone levels. In experimental group 1, the pine tree was treated with a 3.0 pH acid rain and an ambient ozone level. Experimental group 2 was treated with 5.1 pH acid rain and an ambient ozone. In experimental group 3, the pine tree was treated with 3.0 pH acid rain and a twice ambient ozone level. Lastly, experimental group 4 was treated with 5.1 pH acid rain and twice ambient ozone. This graph mainly shows the results of carbon to nitrogen ratios that the researchers found from the study. The middle group of bars show the results of the 4 different combinations of acid rain, pH levels, and ozone levels. The group with the highest carbon to nitrogen ratio was experimental group 3, which combined 3.0 pH acid rain and a twice ambient ozone. The researchers found that the elevated ozone, or twice ambient ozone, decreased carbon concentration in the pine trees, but elevated the nitrogen concentration. Elevated ozone levels also increased the carbon to nitrogen ratios in the trees. The different acid rain pH levels had no significant impact on nitrogen or carbon concentration, as well as carbon to nitrogen ratios. Overall, the results partly supported Mohman and Helms' hypothesis. The carbon concentration, nitrogen concentration, and carbon to nitrogen ratio in the trees was altered, but mainly only by the elevated ozone and not by the acid rain. In conclusion, their studies found that high ozone levels decreased nitrogen concentration in the trees and increased the carbon to nitrogen ratios. In other words, the chemical composition of the trees was altered. These 2 major alterations in the tree's chemistry negatively impacts both the photosynthesis rate and the foliar nutrient quality in the pine trees. So the air pollutants basically have a negative impact on the pine tree's growth rate and overall quality. This article showed that the chemical composition of a plant, of course, has an effect on its growth and development. While Mohman and Helms' study showed that the pine tree's chemical composition could be affected by air pollutants, ultimately limiting its growth, other factors have the potential to do the same thing. The next article explores the different effects of natural and artificial soils on plant growth and development.